We're recording. All right. Well, hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. And believe it or not, this is our last Wednesday workshop of our entire virtual home and lifestyle showcase. So it's been a great 6.5 weeks, and what a way to go out with Dr. Rob Murray. I'm Jennifer Buchanan, and yeah, we have a full house tonight. And I thought, wow, a full house. And that's likely because the topic of tonight's evening is something we can all relate to, working from home, as I am right now, and making sure that we're comfortable and sitting properly while we're doing it. So who better to share his expertise on how we should be sitting, how we should be comfortable, what we should be doing, than Dr. Rob Murray of Murray Family Chiropractic. So thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Rob. I'm going to throw it over to you. I know you've got a full presentation and we've got a full house tonight, and you're going to share your expertise and all your tips on how to stay fit while we're sitting, right? Yeah.
Yes, thanks for having me, Jennifer. I'm really excited to be here. I want to thank the Chamber for having me, Tracy, Tyler for setting this up, and for hosting Jennifer. This is fantastic. I have to admit, I'm a little nervous. I've done ergonomic talks many times before, but over Zoom, this is going to be a first. So I hope it goes well.
You'll do great.
Thank you. All right. So maybe I should introduce myself. Do you mind if I get into, I'm going to share my screen. Okay. There we go. All right. So I know I have some patients who are on the Zoom meeting tonight, so I'm really happy that you guys are attending. That's fantastic. And to guests who have never met me before, I'm Dr. Rob Murray from Murray Family Chiropractic. I've been a practicing chiropractor in Newmarket now for 19 years, believe it or not. Opened up in 2002. This is my family on the bottom left of the screen. Is my wife Danielle and my two sons Aiden and Colin. I have to admit they're a little bit older than the picture shows now, but it's been hard to get out and get an updated picture. But also on the bottom right, you can see a picture of me doing a talk. And the reason I decided to put that in was because I have a passion for teaching and educating the public about good health. So aside from treating patients clinically, I also like to get out in the community. For the past 10 years, I've been teaching a seminar called 360 Health, where I take a Saturday morning and I spend 3 hours just educating my attendees on every aspect of health and what they can do, the most efficient changes they can do to make their health better. And then I also go out into the community to workshops, to workplaces and schools, and do talks on specific topics. And tonight we'll be talking about staying fit while you sit. So without ado, let's get into it. Statistics are pretty startling when it comes to technology use. So we can see that the average Canadian spends about 11 to 12 hours of screen time a day. So that's almost half of our day, unfortunately. 80 hours a week then, which would compute to about 4,100 hours a year. And then over the course of a lifetime, it's about 332,000 hours, which is absolutely astounding. So if we keep spending this much time on devices, whether it's a computer, a laptop, a tablet, a cell phone, it's really hard on the physical structure of our body. But also one of the take-home messages I want people to understand tonight is that it's also hard on your overall health, not just how much pain you have in your neck or your back. And of course, COVID-19 has not helped the matter at all. We have students studying from home. We have people working from their homes, on their laptops, on their dining room table. One patient mentioned that they were using a folding chair for a while. So the ergonomics have not been friendly. People tend to be spending more hours on their computers, more so than ever. And it's really showing up in my practice. I have people coming in that are mentioning that their neck pain is worse. We're seeing more text neck issues or tech neck. We also have increasing frequencies of spinal degeneration, and I'm going to explain what that means a little more in a second. People talking about low back pain more from sitting and working at home. Spinal disc injuries are becoming more prominent as well. And then wrist pain. So if you don't have the proper positioning of your wrist, you can make yourself vulnerable to developing carpal tunnel syndrome. If that doesn't get healed up properly, it could lead to surgery in the future, which we'd like to avoid, obviously. And then aside from your typical musculoskeletal symptoms that people can get, we know that just sitting too much in front of technology is going to mean we're not exercising enough. And with people working from home, it's amazing how many less steps you're taking in a day just to get to work, walk around the office. Same thing for kids at school. They're not getting phys ed like they used to. And so lack of exercise is a big concern right now. Increased screen time can lead to vision issues, which is not great either. Increased screen time can also affect your concentration and your focus, which is not good. And especially for children, they're not getting the socialization that they usually get from school. And even for adults, we're not being able to socialize with coworkers and friends the way we used to. And just being on a device all the time is really getting in the way of that. So there's a number of concerns. Tonight, I'm not going to be able to help you with everything, but I hope I can really give you some good tips to help out with more of the musculoskeletal type issues, preventing neck pain, preventing headaches, preventing back pain, preventing carpal tunnel syndrome and wrist issues. So let's see what we can show you here. Oh yeah, I wanted to touch on this. So premature spinal degeneration. This is kind of a hot topic. And I know it's going to be an even bigger hot topic in the near future because I specialize this and I see it in my office. And basically, one thing I just wanted to let you know before we get into the actual ergonomics and the proper desks and chairs is that in the last 5 years to 10 years of practice, I have noticed an increased rate of people coming into my office showing early onset spinal degeneration or early arthritic changes in their spine. And really, the driving force behind this is the amount of time we are spending on devices, looking down at cell phones, tablets, on computers, on laptops at home. And it's very concerning, not only because we're seeing people with headaches and neck pain, but we're actually seeing increased physical damage. And what I want to illustrate with this slide is that as the x-rays, as we move from left, which is a normal posture x-ray where the neck has a forward curve, like a C-shaped curve, that's what that red line is. And what happens is in the next x-ray to the right, there's a lack of curvature in the spine. And then the third x-ray over, we're starting to see rough edges on the bones, and the spaces in between the bones where the discs are starting to narrow. And that's spinal degeneration. And the far right x-ray is aggressive degeneration that's happening over the years. That far right x-ray, you say hi to somebody and they have that much degeneration in their neck, they might be turning their head and their shoulders at the same time to say hello back because they're so locked up and they're in so much pain.
Who just
The
sat
bottom
up?
images are a little gruesome.
Who just automatically sat up like this while you're watching this? I don't know. I instinctively put my shoulders back and sat up properly.
Oh, it's scary. It's scary.
It is.
One of the scariest part is that I'm actually seeing teenagers come into my office now who are in the second category, that second x-ray over, with the lack of posture, and which means they're predisposed to developing early onset degeneration or arthritis earlier on in life. I've actually had 30-something-year-olds come into my office with arthritic changes in their spine. So this is going to be a hot topic in the future. And for my patients who are in my office now, they know this is it's here now and we need to deal with it. It's just not mainstream information. But these images on the bottom are a little gruesome to look at, but they're actually cadavers of the x-rays, the same individuals above in the x-rays. And what I just want to illustrate is that cord you see running down in the middle is actually the spinal cord. And as you go further along the x-rays towards the right, there's more and more pressure on the spinal cord, more pressure on the nervous system. And what that means is the more time we spend on devices, the more time we're damaging our spine, the more time it could actually be affecting our nervous system and our overall health, not just causing pain, but actually causing how your body functions to not work properly. So it's a big concern. So we need to take proper ergonomics seriously. And so I want to show you some things that people do wrong. There's three main types of poor posture and ergonomics that we tend to see. The first one is the recliner position. So this is the person that likes to lean back when they're working on their computer. And the thing I don't really like about this is that the leaning back causes a lot of bend at the neck. They're really looking down at their screen, and there's a big angle in the lower neck and upper back area. So that's really hard on the neck and shoulders. So the recliner position is really not a good position. Another one that we tend to see is the teenager sloucher position. So they're kind of just leaning forward, arching their mid and lower back. more than it should be. They're reaching forward with their arms for that laptop. It's way too far back on the desk. And so anytime I see that happening with my child, I make sure we get the laptop closer to the edge of the desk and they're sitting more upright. And this next one might be a bit of a surprise to you. This is the upright position. When you look at this, you might think, well, that looks like pretty good posture. The gentleman is sitting upright. But actually, the latest research is showing that it's much better to have a slight recline. Maybe not as much as the recliner in this image, but it is beneficial to the low back area and the health of your discs to not be sitting at a sharp 90 degrees, but to be leaning back just a little bit, about 110 degrees. And I'm going to show you some slides on that in a second. The individual who might do the upright posture doesn't necessarily suffer from back pain, but they might have more neck issues, and they're trying to really limit the amount of flexion in their neck. So they sit upright more to try to reduce the flexion. So now that we know some of the wrong postures, why don't we look at what we should be doing? The number one thing that I think we need to change first for most people is actually not the desk, but the chair. Your chair can really provide a lot of benefit and eliminate issues or restrictions that your desk might be providing. So if you have a good chair, you're going to be set up. And the type of chair that I recommend is in this picture. And basically, it's a three-way adjustable chair. So number one, the small switch that's on the front is going to elevate the height of the chair. We need the whole chair to be able to elevate based on your height and the height of your desk. Number two is we would also like there to be another adjustable feature so the back of the chair can recline. And it's really important to have this because, like I said earlier, we don't necessarily want to be sitting directly 90 degrees up. We do want to have a little slight recline to our chair. Not a lot, but just a little bit. And the third component would be the seat angle. So the actual levelness of the seat. For some people, it can be beneficial to have a downward tilt just a little bit to take strain off the back of the legs and the pelvic area. So having seat angle or tilt feature on the chair as well. So when you're shopping for a chair and you're wondering, okay, is this chair going to be able to do all those functions? Well, you'll know when you see the three levers on the side. So that's the dead giveaway. You'll want to look for the three levers on the side, and then you'll know that's a three-way adjustable chair. And another nice feature to have is that you'll notice, well, you might not be able to see on the image, but the armrests on this chair can also elevate and lower because you're going to need your armrests at a certain height as well too. So adjustable armrests, adjustable height, the back angle for the recline and the seat tilt are all very important things to have. Oh, and yeah, there we go. The armrests and of course lumbar support would be beneficial as well too. Some other options for people, if we're on a low budget and we just want to get something inexpensive for about $20, you can add a lumbar support, which is the far right image with the blue arrows on it. And that just straps onto your current chair and provides a little support to the lumbar spine. On the lady on the left top is sitting in a kneeling chair. And they come in different forms and variations, but some people like to kneel. It takes some of the flexion out of the hips. And it does take some of the strain off of the low back area. So that is an option for people. The bottom left is a stabilizer chair, a stability ball chair. They will help to engage your core muscles while you're seated. And some people feel very comfortable doing that. On the bottom right, this is called a wobble stool. And this is kind of a newer thing, but you can see the gentleman as he's sitting on it, the stool is actually leaning forward a bit. Just variations of different ways of sitting. Everybody has their own preferences, just like pillows. Some people like the orthopedic pillows with the arches to support the neck. Some people just like a thick, fluffy pillow. So really a chair is the same. And if you're out shopping for a chair, I would recommend going to Staples and sitting in the different chairs when the stores are open again. But being able to sit in the chairs and try them out, that really will go a long way. But in general, the most common chair that will work best for the majority of the population is going to be the three-way adjustable chair. And that's what I would look at if you're trying to buy one chair for the long run. So when we're trying to set up our chair to work well with our desk, regardless of whether you're using a laptop or a desktop, The chair height is going to be the number one thing that you want to do. And so an ideal chair height is going to actually not focus with your feet touching the ground. It's going to be more so about getting your chair at the proper height, that if your desk is not adjustable, we want the 90 to 100-degree angle at the elbows. And we want your elbows to be just above the surface of the desk. So your armrest should be coming up practically to about the height of the actual desk. So that's the elevation of the height of the chair that we want. Now, when you have that height, you want to have your chair tucked in close enough to the desk that you have your elbows at about 90 degrees or opened up a little more to about 100 degrees. And that will take some strain off the shoulder muscles for you. And so you want your elbow tucked back in line with your shoulder. You don't want your arms reaching out ahead. So that diagram really helps out a lot. When it comes to your monitor, that's the next thing I would look at. So if we have a desktop monitor, if your monitor is sitting flat on your desk, more than likely the monitor is going to be too low for your vision. Ideally, we would like your eyes to be mid-level with the monitor, or at least in the top half of the monitor. So if you need to raise your monitor up, you can grab some old phone books if you actually have any of those still around your house. But anything that you could just prop up the monitor would work great, just to get that monitor raised up higher so it's about eye level to mid monitor, or at least eye level in the upper half of the screen. And that will reduce the amount of flexion you're putting in your neck when you're looking at your screen. It'll keep you in a more neutral position with your neck muscles. Now, if you have a laptop at home, which a lot of people do nowadays, one of the ways we still need to get that monitor up, because technically the monitor on a laptop is even lower than the monitor of a desktop. So we really need to elevate it. And you can purchase stands to elevate your laptop. Again, some people may even just use a stack of books. But you need to get that monitor up high. So I think a laptop stand is a great investment. They're all over Amazon. But again, if you want to try to save some money, you can just prop your monitor up on or your laptop up on some books. And I'm going to get back to laptop monitors and the stands in a second too. But first, I just want to talk about your wrists and the typing angle. So I mentioned you need your chair to be up to the armrest to be about the height of the desk. So you can be at 90 degrees. We don't want your wrists bending back when you're typing. And this tends to be a common issue. Can you guys picture a keyboard for a desktop? You know, when you get your brand new computer and you're unpacking the keyboard, when you put your keyboard down, before you put it down, there's a couple things on the back that you always flick up, little legs, right? So the keyboard would actually have an angle to it. Well, that's actually quite silly, because that really puts our wrists flexed back. And we don't want that. We don't want wrists flexed back. It makes us more vulnerable to carpal tunnel syndrome and other wrist issues. So if you are using a desktop keyboard, make sure those little tabs are flicked down so your keyboard is flush with your desk. And again, you need your chair and armrest high enough that your arm is parallel to the desk. And it'd be nice, you can even purchase. So here's a proper angle. Now in this image, they have a tray underneath that's making it a little easier. But if you were desk height, you would just have to raise your chair up a little more and have your forearms parallel with the desk. But you can take a little support or a little strain. There's some images here showing the bad wrist positions. So basically, you just want your wrists parallel or straight with your forearm. But this is what I wanted to get at. So you can get a wrist rest, and these are inexpensive, $10 to $20 off Amazon. But you can put this in front of your keyboard, and it will support your wrists and take a lot of strain off of them while you're typing. So if you don't have a wrist rest, low cost investment that I highly recommend getting, that can really help out, and it actually forces you to be in a more proper angle with your wrists. So once again, I know I'm repeating myself, but this is really how we learn. You need your chair high enough that you can get your armrests and your arms up parallel to the desk height, and you're going to rest your wrist on a support if you can, and make sure your keyboard is not tilted up. You want it flush to the desk, and that will protect your wrists a lot.
Dr. Rob, can I interject and ask a question? Because I don't know if anybody else is like, I'm doing this with my arms as you're doing it, but if we're working on a laptop, which our keyboard is obviously not separate, so it's not lower.
Yep.
My arms are up. Because by your diagrams here, my arm should be lower for typing, but my eyes should be up here. So what are we supposed to do if we're working off of a laptop?
So yes, for a laptop, I think I have an image of this coming up soon. But for a laptop, what we want to do is get your laptop up high so the monitor is high. But obviously, you don't want to be typing like this on the keyboard. So
Right.
I highly recommend getting a wireless keyboard and mouse to have with your laptop. So with a wireless keyboard and mouse, you would just have a little USB chip that plugs into the USB port of your laptop, and then you'll be able to use your mouse and keyboard wirelessly. And then you'll just have your wireless keyboard on the desk surface, and your laptop is basically now just a monitor,
Correct.
essentially.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's the solution to that problem. It's really good to have a wireless keyboard and mouse, and I believe you can pick them up now for like $30 to $40 if they're really inexpensive. So a very good add-on. Great question, Jennifer.
Well, I've got my ergonomic desktop that I can stand up and it's up nice and high, but I'm doing exactly what you're saying. I'm typing up here. So I knew there must have been some type of workaround on that. So thank you.
You got it. You got it. So now this lends to the question, we talked about getting your chair up high to meet your desk. Now, what if you're a shorter person? If you're getting your chair up high enough that your arms are parallel with your desk for typing, your feet might be dangling or your toes just might be touching the floor. And that's not a good supportive position either. So this is where a footrest comes in handy. We have these at the office for our staff. I picked ours up just up at IKEA. But they're amazing. We can get like on the one on the left, the image on the left, it's adjustable. You can change the angle and the height of it. The images on the right are kind of a newer model where it's just a round piece of foam, and it kind of feels nice because it massages your foot. You can flip it over and you can kind of have a rocker style with it as well too. So there's multiple different options out there. When it comes to knees, the big thing that I keep mentioning is that with your back, we don't want you to strict 90 degrees. We want you reclined a bit to about 110 degrees. Same thing with the elbows. We don't want your elbow at a strict 90 degrees. We want you to have a bit of openness in the elbows as well. And the same thing with your knees. We don't necessarily want your knees to always be the flush 90 degrees. You can bring your feet forward just a little bit to open up the angle underneath your knees, and that will help as well too with the footrest. And when you have your feet on the footrest, you should still feel the bottom of your legs, your hamstrings, resting firmly on your seat comfortably. And that will let you know that you have the proper height in the footrest. So the final product is going to look like this image. So we have the chair raised to the height that your elbows are at the same height as the desk and your arm is parallel with the desk. We have a rest underneath the wrists, and you're able to keep your hands neutral. And then with the low back, there are 90 degrees here, but you could slightly recline a little bit. And the knees, it shows 90 degrees, but you can have your feet just a little bit forward as well too to open up the angle. And there's a block underneath the monitor to raise the monitor up to at least get the eyes to the upper half of the screen. And this is what we're really aiming for with proper ergonomics. And also, there's a note on here that your monitor should be about an arm's length away from you for a proper distance, minimum arm's length. So that's what we're aiming for. Now, there's other modifications you can do. So say you're working on a tablet at home. So really highly recommended to have a wireless keyboard for a tablet, and then you can raise your tablet just like a laptop, and you don't have to be typing on the tablet or looking further down at it. So a wireless keyboard for a tablet's a great idea. Some people will have their laptop at home and just hook it up to a desktop monitor, and so the image is actually being portrayed on their desktop monitor rather than the laptop itself. And of course, you can always add a keyboard tray onto your desk if you have that capability. I think it's a great option to do aside from the keyboard resting on top of the desk. But at the very least, if your keyboard is on top of your desk, just make sure your forearms are up parallel with the desk. And then ergonomics, good ergonomics is just not enough. If you have great ergonomics, but you're sitting in your chair at your computer for 3-4 hours straight, it's still going to be hard on your back and your neck. And so the most recent science is saying that the best thing to do is to not sit for 2 or 3 hours and then go for a half-hour walk on your lunch break. The best thing to do is to get up every 20 minutes, even just for a 20-second stretch. So if you're dedicated to getting up every 20 minutes and just shaking things off, stretching the hips, lifting your legs, And just sitting down after 20 seconds, it's not a lot of time. One, it's a nice little mental break to refocus you, but two, it kind of lubricates the joints, gets everything moving, loosens up the muscles very quickly. And it's much more effective to do this than to sit for a prolonged period of time and try to undo the damage of that time sitting by going for a walk afterwards. And one way that people can be reminded to stand up is to download the app Stand Up. And the app is wonderful. You can actually program in the app the hours of the day that you're working and the frequency of time that you want to get up, which obviously we would recommend setting the frequency at every 20 minutes. So the app would give you a little reminder every 20 minutes to get up, and it will just do it during your work hours. So it's a fantastic thing to have, because I know most people say I intend on getting up, but I get caught up in my work, and before you know it, an hour or two has passed by. So I highly recommend training yourself by downloading the app Stand Up and having that available. Another option that's great to have that maybe not everybody has the ability to have, but if you can, a standing desk is wonderful. Some people have adjustable desks at their work that they can raise and lower, but even just having an option for a standing desk that's permanent taller height is wonderful too. The University of Waterloo did a study where they found that it would be great if people could actually stand for 3/4 of the day and only sit for 1/4 of the day. That would be the optimal thing to do in terms of the ratio of amount of time for standing versus sitting. Minimum 50-50 sitting versus standing. So we really do want people to be standing more than sitting during the course of their day when they're working. Now, when the pandemic started, I didn't have a standing desk at home, and I thought, geez, what's something low cost that I can get to have as a standing desk at home? And I did some research, and I found, I don't have a slide for this, so you might want to write it down, but if you'd like to have something low cost that's mobile that you can move around your house for a standing desk for a laptop, you can get a mobile standing cart. If you Google mobile standing cart desk, you need the word cart in there. It'll show you a nice platform that looks like a mini standing desk with coasters on the bottom. And you can pick these up for anywhere between $80 to $180. And they'll be adjustable in height, and you can wheel them around. Mine's light enough that I can carry it into my backyard, and I can stand in my backyard while I'm doing work. So it's wonderful to have. Mine fits a laptop. It has room for a coffee and a notepad. So it's great. And so I highly recommend, if you're looking for a low cost feature for a standing desk, that's an option as well, to get a mobile desk standing cart. You have your sit stand converters. Very is a very popular company in terms of these, but you can get these for just making your own current desk kind of a sit stand variation. The only thing I don't like about these is I'm not sure how well they work for when you want to be in the seated position, because it might be a little higher than you want. But it's a great option to have to get to convert your regular desk into a standing option. So that's a nice option to have as well too. I know a lot of workplaces provide these for their employees. And then if you really want to get fancy, you can even get your treadmill desks.
Wow.
So where you're walking at a slow pace while you're actually while you're working, burning your calories, getting your exercises and your steps in during the day. And things are really changing and getting futuristic as well. Here's a setup where you can actually recline, put your feet up. There's a neck support in the back, and then there's a stand for your laptop. So interesting what we're coming out with nowadays. Is probably about an $1,800 to $2,000 chair right there. And then this is your $5,000 to $10,000 variation chair, where it looks like it's something made by NASA. But you can see the gentleman's actually laying back, reclined, feet up, multiple monitors around him, and his keyboard is angled. But this is just some futuristic ideas. Well, not futuristic. You can actually purchase this nowadays for about $8,000 to $10,000 if you want to have something like this in your household, which is probably a little over the top, but it's out there.
Okay, I have to ask, is that good for you?
Is it good? Yeah, it's a very neutral position for the spine, because
you're saying so
down.
Physically it's actually a good position to be in, you're saying.
It's a good position. The neck is
Wow.
supported. The only thing that could probably go wrong with this is he might get a little too much flexion in his wrists with the angle of the keyboard relative to his arms, but still,
I'd say the biggest risk is you'd have a nap and fall asleep.
Yeah. Or the monitor falls off and lands on you. I mean, that'd be horrible. Oh, geez. And then another concept that I promote with my children is tummy time. You know, tummy time was good when you were a baby, but also as an adult nowadays. So even just getting on your bed, on your stomach, or on the floor on your stomach, whether you're with a tablet, your cell phone, or your laptop, you wouldn't want to do this for extended periods of time, but even just a few minutes just to switch things up. It provides a nice stretch to the low back. It opens up the discs, takes pressure off the muscles in the hips, and it's a very good thing to do. It's almost kind of like a variation of an upward dog in yoga. And so a little bit of tummy time is a good thing to do as well. And I wasn't able to find a slide for this, but one of the things I tell my children to do if they know they're going to be spending some extended time on their cell phone or a tablet, and they're just sitting around, they don't need a notepad or anything, is that they'll sit on the couch and they'll pile pillows from our couch on top of each other to get to a height about chest level. So they'll have about 3 or 4 pillows stacked on top of each other, and then they'll rest their arms and the tablet on top of all the pillows. So they're looking pretty much parallel at the laptop and their arms are resting there. It's a decent position for when you're sitting on a couch, and you don't want to be looking down at your lap. So that's another tip that you can utilize. So that's the majority of the information. That is the information I wanted to share. Just remember, you want to start with the chair height, having a good chair, getting the height up parallel to the desk so your arms are level, and then you'll build off of there, getting the monitor up higher, maybe purchasing a wireless keyboard for your laptop, having a footrest to make sure your feet are supported while your chair is up high enough for the proper level of your desk. And if you can get a standing desk, that's amazing. That's great to have. And you want to stand for anywhere from half the day to 3/4 of the day. And get up every 20 minutes. Make sure you're moving. Get those joints moving so you don't have to come see me as much.
Well, that's what somebody already said at the 20-minute mark of this webinar. Should we be standing up now, right? So
there we go. Yeah.
fantastic.
Oh, I feel bad. It's 7:32. I went 2 minutes over.
No, that's okay. And if anybody's like me, honestly, I've been the longer, but I've sat here, I've tended to put my back straight and my shoulders back. Yeah. But I like that point that you made, that we're not, even though maybe we've been conditioned, shoulders back, sit up straight, that there's actually a little bit of a relaxation to it. So that was really informative.
Yep. So instead of 90 degrees, we want to open the angle up a little wider to about 110 degrees for your back reclining, for your elbows, for your knees. And it's a little more comfortable for the joints. Well, one thing, Jennifer, that I wanted to mention earlier when I was talking about the spinal degeneration, I wanted to mention that the majority of the people on here, I think, are some of my patients. But if there's any guests, all my patients who are on here have actually had an X-ray and they know what their spine looks like and what we need to work on. But if you're a guest and you've never had an X-ray, especially on the neck area, because the neck is very vulnerable to all the technology use we have nowadays, if you're interested in knowing what your neck looks like, I'm actually offering to everybody who's on the webinar today to actually come to my office for a complimentary exam with X-rays. And there's absolutely no obligation to do care. It's more informative and educational. And so if anybody wants to take me up on that offer and you're in the Newmarket area, can make it to our clinic, feel free to use the phone number on this slide to call our office and book a complimentary appointment. Just mention that you're on the webinar, or you can email our office with the info@murraychiropractic.com, and I'll be happy to honor that complimentary exam with X-rays. And so at least you know your starting point. I can give you some tips, and there's absolutely no obligation to do chiropractic care.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I mean, that was so much awesome information. It was a great way to close off our virtual lifestyle or home and lifestyle showcase. So we really appreciate it. And I know, as I said, I'm sitting up straighter. I'm going to rework because I wanted to do this to end the show. Oh, there we go. There's my stand-up desk. So we did get them. I mean, I got to work on my headspace, but we really appreciate you sharing all of these tips and tricks and expertise, Dr. Rob. And again, info@Murray Chiropractic for anybody who's on and wants to follow up. And to everyone who joined us tonight for our final Wednesday workshop, we really appreciate it. We're so happy that you've supported the Chamber and our virtual lifestyle, home and lifestyle showcase. And we thank you so much. And we, hope you have a great night, and we'll see you again soon when we do some more interactive events like this. And again, thank you to Dr. Rob Murray for sharing your expertise tonight.
Thanks for having me, Jennifer.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.